Hello, family and friends. I'm Lakeisha D. Howard, and I am running as an independent candidate for the Texas House District 124. I am a servant leader in our community who believes in the voices being heard. I am a retired Air Force veteran, as well as a retiree from the Department of Veteran Affairs. For me, this is not about politics and party. This is about our community voice being heard. We can only do that as one. And that's why I have elected to run as an independent versus being tied to a particular party. I am tied to our community, each and every one of you. I want to show transparency and accountability. I want our voices to be heard at our state capitol. I want us to show love and action because that's what brings community together. So vote for me in November 2026 as your independent state representative for District 124. I'm Lakeisha Howard. I love each and every one of you, and I cannot wait to hear your voice.
October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and we're giving cancer the boot. Let Not Only Tees customize your coins, tumblers and mugs, shirts and apparel, books, diaries, keychains, you name it. Visit the website to place your custom order today. Simple process and quality work. Not Only Tees, honoring breast cancer awareness and survival.
Welcome back to Community Conversations with Tyrone Darden on TAN TV. We have Mrs. Johnson, Preacher Adam, Zarb-Cousin and Dr. Piper. And we're having a conversation about school choice. But is it really a choice? Preacher, what's your thoughts on that?
I've got a story, right? This is a real story about what happened to me and my family. This was 15 years ago when my son was just coming out of private school. I chose to start my children in private school, Christian private school. Was able to do that, right? Was blessed enough in order to be able to do that. And we said, okay, let's go ahead and we're going to shift to public school now for social reasons and to participate in athletics and things like that. And he went to, I don't know if I should mention the school, but he went to a school here.
Accountability is big in a community conversation.
Well, it was Ed White. This was 15 years ago. This was 15 years ago, right? Northeast Independent School District. And he came back and he said, Pop, those folks are crazy over there. Like, I don't understand. And it was a bit of a culture shock for him, right? Just to kind of be around some of that stuff, and so we just kind of told him to hang in there, and it just didn't go well for him. It wasn't good, and I'm not talking about socially. I'm talking about academically. He said that the teachers are spending so much time dealing with behavioral issues that they don't really get opportunity to teach, and he's just kind of sitting around. He was already a little bit advanced, right, from an academic standpoint, and I went and kind of did my research and found out. Right, and this is what Dr. Piper was talking about earlier, people that have the knowledge and know how to go look for and understand what the options are. And I found out that there was a policy that if the school that your child was going to had a failing grade, you could choose another public school. Yes. And that's exactly what we did. So I ended up sending my son to Wood Middle School. Now, would we have been able to do that if, my wife was working double shifts or I was working graveyard and coming home at 8 o'clock in the morning like people do, right? That would not have been an option for us. It was an option for us because our circumstances allowed it to be. So if there's somebody that has a single mother that has a child that's working night shift as a nurse, that's making good money or decent money, and doesn't have the ability to be home to take the child to school in the morning, is that really a choice?
I think that's an excellent perspective, and it leads me to something that Dr. Piper said. Dr. Piper says she is a proponent of public schools and a product of public schools, but she chooses to send her daughter to private school. Now, going back to what Z just stated, what I heard him say was, we were able to do this because we had the we had the knowledge first, but then we also had the resources. What drove you to choose private over public for your daughter?
So, similarly to what Pastor Z did, I looked into. So I was living in East Terrell Hills when my daughter started school. I was working at UIW, so I knew starting out I had the option for her to go to school in Alamo Heights because I worked there, and I could just pay the out-of-district tuition for her to go to school there, or she could have gone to a school in the Northeast Independent School District where I lived. I did not like or understand the ratings of the schools. So I began to look into Catholic schools under the Archdiocese of San Antonio. Well, before I did that, I looked into like SAISD and some other school districts. And I just looked into, so I know because I work for UIW, when Jay gets to high school, I get free tuition.
Okay.
So I have to still pay fees, but her tuition is free. So that began to influence my decision to send her to private school. And I just didn't like the what was going on in the elementary schools that I was zoned to. Now, I did look into Gervin School because I lived near there as well. But I worked at UIW, and she started school at St. Anthony's, and so it was easier for me to just drop her at St. Anthony and go to work than to, go to Gervin and then. So I did some research, and, ultimately I just decided that this money, these fees I'm gonna have to pay on a monthly basis are worth it, knowing that I don't have to worry about safety. I don't have to worry about whether or not she's a latchkey kid, like going home by herself and all of those things, because, I would pick her up. I would drop her off at school and pick her up from school, and then she would just come to my office. She would, So those were some factors that influenced my decision, very similarly to what your son had gone through. And I remember maybe like 10 years ago now, when the restorative discipline became big. Like Ed White Middle School was one of the places where we piloted that and really changed some of those negative outcomes. Like they had like 88% disciplinary infractions, and that reduced to like by half, by 44 once restorative discipline was implemented into that school.
I listening to this conversation, I hear two trends: knowledge, information, being educated, but also having the resources to leverage school choice. In Z's situation, it was public to public. In your situation, it was public to private. But ultimately, if you didn't know what the options of school choice were, you couldn't have made a choice.
Correct.
And even if you did know, if you didn't have the resources, working graveyard shift or whatever the situation may have been, you may not have been able to leverage that. Go ahead, Z.
Well, and the way that it's set up today, it's further perpetuated. So like Miss Johnson in charter schools, micro schools don't have, when you go look on Zillow, Zillow doesn't say what the charter schools are in the area.
They don't list
it doesn't list the private schools in the area. It lists the grades of the public schools. And so, the folks that use Zillow, the folks that use Realtor.com or whatever the case is where these things are listed, I think that, again, it's systemic. It's just going to reinforce the same thing where people aren't going to move to the east side, right? Either because those schools are, the high performing and good private schools or charter schools in these areas are not listed in these resources, right? And so they're at a disadvantage there. So folks are just naturally going to gravitate to the areas where there's already economic benefit, where there's already economic superiority, and that just continues to exacerbate the problem. That's why, and I don't mean to just scrub it down to this, but I really wish somebody would explain to me why doesn't the federal government just establish a per student cost, whether it's public, private, charter, home, whatever it is, and say, this is what it is per head, whether you live in Beverly Hills or you live in South Detroit. Whether you're on the 8 Mile or you on, Manhattan, Avenue.
Broadway.
Broadway, right? It should the cost per head should be what the cost per head is. That would level the playing field. And I'm sure that there's more to it than that. Yes. But
so with those two things, being a founder of a micro, I forget how you coined it, phrase it, micro private school, a mini school, educating and informing the community and ensuring the resources are available for people who want to take part in your offerings. What are you doing to close those gaps?
And that's why I love each one of y'all's statements of what you said about making that choice. And the thing that stood out to me and what I heard both of you say was that you took the time to find out the knowledge. Absolutely. You took the time to find out what's best for your child. And you also made sure that you had the resources to do it. And that's what I feel like most micro schools that are coming up, and the ones that I've seen in Florida, Arizona, and Massachusetts, they have set that standard of informing the parents in their community of what they can provide, what they can't provide, and then we also give them an avenue of knowing the different public schools and charter schools that's around us that could also best benefit their child. So understanding that knowledge and understanding like what's best for your child is what micro schools do. We're not just a charter school where we just want kids to come in, because I've worked for a charter schools for the past 5 years, and what I've learned through them is that we're like a public school. We just want a kid in a seat. If we can get 30 kids in a classroom, then we're good. And that's not beneficial for any child. Right. And the public schools are doing the same thing. If we just get more kids in, we'll get more money, and then we can do more resources. But that's not the facts. The facts is that they're getting more resources, they're getting more funding, but then they're also paying more teachers, paying into the administration more, and the kids are lacking. And that goes to what you said with your son, that he was at this school and he didn't like it. He was not getting the education that he needed. But then right across the way, which is probably, 5 minutes from where you were at, 5 minutes, they got educated teachers. They got things. But what also you probably didn't realize is that right across the way, they're probably paying higher taxes. They're probably putting into their community, and the parents are probably going up to the school and doing things with the teachers and principals and making sure that my child is getting what they need.
You have a great point. And all of you guys are parents. School choice is one thing, but you can choose a baked potato. If you don't grease it up and poke the holes in it and season it up, it's not going to be good.
Right. Yes.
As parents, what do you feel like the role is of a parent in ensuring a high quality education?
It's exactly what they did. Is finding out what's best for my child, finding out what's the best school for my child, finding out those policies and understanding those policies, because what I heard you say is that was confusing. If it's confusing, I'm not doing it. And that's what a lot of schools are doing. They're making it so confusing that you don't come. And if you don't want them there, then we should not be there, you know? So I feel like as a parent, you have to be able to make that investment in your child, whether it's sending them to the right private school or the right public school or charter school or even homeschooling them, understanding that this is your choice. But is it good for my kid? And do I need to make a sacrifice for my child? Because I have a 4-year-old, and I had him at a daycare. And she was just loving on him. I said, I love the love, but my kid needs more. And so I ended up starting to do the research and finding out the different schools. I looked at the zoo school. It was excellent, but it was too far. I looked at a private school, Salem Sayers, and I ended up deciding that's where he would go. I ended up finding out the school that I worked at had a pre-K program. But I was not going to send him there because I knew of his attitude. I knew of his demeanor. I knew that he was advanced. So there's no way that he can go into a classroom with 28 other little 3-year-olds and not end up taking charge.
So in closing, we go. In closing, you're gonna get your chance.
Okay.
In closing, we're gonna go back to top of mind. Education savings account has been passed here in Texas. $1 billion has been allocated for basically private school vouchers. Up to $10,000 for private school tuition. up to $2,000 for homeschool, and up to $30,000 for special needs students, special education students. Z, what's your take on that, just on that information?
How much are other people getting? How much are the other schools getting per student?
Great question. HISD has an annual budget of $3.9 billion, one school district. Austin Independent School District, pretty much the same. Fort Worth Independent School District. These school districts have a higher budget than most cities in Texas. And so they're getting billions as well from the state, as well from the property tax. So with that extra information, what do you think?
I think that kind of speaks for it, right? I certainly appreciate it. I think it's a step in the right direction.
Okay.
Right? But is there real equality? Like, this isn't a difficult math problem. You know what I mean? It's as simple as cost per head and again, maybe it's not as simple as that, right? There are some complications that go into it. However, if you're telling me I'm going to get $2,000 or whatever the number is for my student for a year, and I have the choice, but I am impacted regionally, right? I can only, take them so far. Like she said, she couldn't take them to this other school because it was too far. I think Dr. Bishop said that.
Dr. Piper?
Dr. Piper, yeah, sorry. That's not equality, right?
And speaking of Dr. Piper, you're going to go ahead and close us out.
Yes, so a couple of things. I think that if there's a way that we could figure out how public schools doesn't lose funding to fund the education savings account, I'm for it. I also think that, like us as parents, like we have a duty and obligation to make sure our schools are safe. And I think we're out of time.
Well, we're always going to have more time to continue the conversation. I want to thank our guests, Mrs. Oletha Johnson, private school founder, micro school founder, preacher Adam Zarb-Cousin, parent and proud taxpayer, and Dr. Doshie Piper, who chooses, you're supposed to finish my sentence.
I don't know, to send her daughter to private school, because you haven't gotten off of that, but I support public education, for the record.
With that being said, thank you for tuning in to another episode of Community Conversations with Tyrone Darden on TAN TV. Let's continue the conversation, and we'll talk again. Thank you.
Most people aren't concerned about hair loss until it affects them or someone they know. But we care.
Hi, I'm Kayla Martell. If you're a woman with hair loss or thinning hair, like me, please listen carefully. Hair loss is a common problem for many women who don't know where to turn for viable solutions, until now. To learn more about the newest professional solutions for your hair loss, it will change your life.
Contact the professionals of Trinity Lace Wigs, changing lives one head at a time.